In Tokyo's most beautiful park, a cleaner thought she had found a bag of fresh sashimi. The color was pink, there was no blood, and the cuts were as neat as frozen food. Until she used a bamboo pole to pry open the not-a-human angle, completely drained of blood, slid to her feet. Murder, dismemberment, bleeding, cleaning. 27 packages as neatly arranged as a factory assembly line.
Welcome back to Glitch Frequency. Today we'll talk about the Inokashira Park dismemberment case.
We're going to take you back to Tokyo in 1994 to unpack those carefully packaged secrets.
And, to everyone listening, welcome to this deep dive. Today our mission is to explore one of Japan's most notorious, completely unsolved perfect crimes.
Yeah, we've got a massive stack of historical reports, forensic analyses, and decades-old police files.
Right, and we're going to use all of that to really piece together a puzzle that it completely defied the authorities.
It terrified the entire nation, honestly.
Oh, absolutely. And we're not just going to tell you the timeline. We want to break down the really bizarre logistics.
The mechanical precision of it all.
Exactly. How someone can be just, erased right in the middle of one of the world's most populous cities.
Because this case, it forces you to reevaluate how criminal investigations even work.
Yeah, when you look at the evidence here, you aren't seeing a normal crime scene.
Not at all.
You're looking at this level of organization and industrial capability that just short-circuited the investigative protocols back in the 1990s.
So to really grasp why this hit the Japanese public so hard, we kind of have to start with the setting, right?
Yeah, Inokashira Park.
Right. It sits right on the border of Mitaka City and Musashino City in Tokyo.
And we should be clear to you listening, this isn't like some dark, abandoned industrial sector.
No, it's a historic, beloved sanctuary.
Yeah, it's famous for these massive cherry blossoms. There's a zoo, a historic shrine, a large lake.
People take their families there to rent those little swan-shaped paddle boats.
Exactly. It's the absolute epitome of a peaceful, family-friendly environment.
So, imagine taking your family for a weekend stroll in, say, Central Park or even Disneyland.
Yep.
And just stumbling onto a pristine, factory-like horror scene right next to the picnic tables.
It's just that level of jarring. And that contrast is, well, it's really critical to understanding the psychology here.
Because it's not just a murder.
Right. Placing extreme calculated violence in the middle of a serene sanctuary, it's a huge violation of civic space.
It sends a message to the public that literally nowhere is safe.
Yeah, they didn't hide this deep in the woods. They placed it exactly where families go to relax.
Okay, so let's unpack this. Because the actual discovery of the crime, it started out in the most mundane way possible.
It really did. It was the morning of Saturday, April 23, 1994.
Right around 10:00 to 11:00 a.m.
Just a standard weekend morning. People are walking dogs, jogging.
And there's a female sanitation worker doing her normal rounds.
And she had this specific habit, right?
Yeah, while she was emptying the park's trash cans, she would actively look for leftover food.
Like discarded fish or meat or whatever.
Exactly, to feed the local stray cats around the park.
Just a routine act of kindness.
Right, so she's near the outdoor stage area, checking a trash can, and she pulls out this semi-transparent plastic bag.
And through the plastic, she sees what she thinks are lumps of, like pink fish-like meat.
Which, to her, just looks like someone threw away a nice picnic lunch.
A lucky find for the cats.
But here's the thing. She can't get the bag open. It's tied with this highly complex knot, and the plastic is super thick.
Right, she's pulling at it, but it won't budge.
So she calls over a colleague, and they actually find a stray bamboo stick on the ground.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, they literally use the stick as a lever to pry the knot apart.
Just to get it open.
And when the plastic finally tears open, that is when a human ankle falls out onto the pavement.
The cognitive dissonance there must have been completely overwhelming.
Oh, for sure.
But from a forensic standpoint, it's crucial to ask why she didn't recognize it as human right away.
Right, why did she think it was fish?
Because it didn't look like a standard crime scene disposal.
Yeah.
The sources say it looked like commercially packaged meat from, like, a high-end supermarket.
Wow.
Yeah. The lack of blood, the perfectly precise cuts. Her brain simply categorized it as food until she saw the literal shape of an ankle.
That is so deeply unsettling.
It really is.
So the police arrive, they cordon off the entire park, and they quickly realize this is not just one isolated bag.
No, they start checking all the garbage bins.
And they find a total of 27 packages distributed across 7 different trash cans.
Which reveals this incredibly cold, mechanical methodology.
But here's where it gets really interesting, and I really struggle to understand this part.
What's that?
If a team of people goes through this impossible amount of effort to erase someone's identity, why leave the bags in public trash cans?
Right, where they're guaranteed to be found.
Yeah, why not bury them deep in the woods or drop them in the ocean?
Well, that is the central paradox of the case. But looking at the forensic realities, the killers were basically dictating the parameters of the investigation.
How so?
By using the park bins, they used the city's infrastructure as, like, a filing cabinet. Every single one of those 27 body parts was cut to approximately 20 by 30 centimeters.
Wait, that is incredibly specific.
It had to be. That 20 by 30 centimeter dimension was the exact maximum size needed to perfectly fit through the openings of those specific park trash cans.
Oh, you've got to be kidding me.
Nope. They weren't just arbitrarily chopping up a body. They were machining it to fit a municipal container.
That is terrifying. That means they measured the trash cans beforehand.
Exactly. And the processing of the parts themselves, the sources note they were pale white, completely drained of blood.
And washed absolutely clean, right?
Yes, they emitted zero odor. Plus, the fingerprints and palm prints were almost entirely removed or meticulously smoothed down.
So let's talk about the plumbing and machinery needed for that, because I feel like that eliminates the idea of just some lone killer in an apartment.
Oh, completely. Draining a human body entirely of blood is incredibly difficult.
Because blood coagulates, right?
Right? It clots almost immediately after death.
Yeah.
So to drain a body so thoroughly that the muscle tissue turns white, you can't use a normal bathtub.
What do you need then?
You need a continuous high-volume flush of running water. Something like the plumbing of a commercial laundromat or, frankly, an industrial slaughterhouse.
Wow. And what about the cuts? You mentioned they were perfectly 20 by 30 centimeters.
Yeah, to cut through human bone without regard for the natural joints, that requires heavy machinery.
Because normally people cut at the joints, right?
Exactly. It's easier to cut through cartilage with a handsaw. A handsaw on thick bone splinters and leaves jagged edges.
But these were smooth.
Perfectly smooth, which strongly suggests a powerful table saw or a bandsaw.
So industrial saws plus massive water requirements.
Yeah, you're looking at an industrial facility and a highly coordinated team.
And the packaging itself was engineered to hide all this, too. They used a double-layer system.
Right, the black bags and the clear bags.
Yeah, the parts were placed inside a black plastic bag with tiny drainage holes poked in it, and then that bag went inside the semi-transparent bag.
Which is a very specific technique used in the commercial fishing industry.
To keep the meat preserved.
Yeah, the inner holes let residual moisture drain away from the meat, and the outer bag contains the liquid.
And they sealed it using that complex knot, the fisherman's knot, the Ryoshi Masubi.
Exactly, which is brilliant in this really macabre way because that knot is designed to tighten when it gets wet.
Oh, I see.
It ensured absolutely no fluids leaked into the public trash cans. Because a leak would cause a smell, which would lead to an early discovery.
That is so calculated. But despite all of this, the erased prints, the drained blood, the police actually catch a miracle of a break.
They do. The killers missed one tiny spot.
Right. They removed almost all the prints, but police found a tiny partial print remaining in the crease of a joint.
And they combined that with DNA technology.
Which in 1994 was not easy.
Not at all. DNA tech was in its infancy. It usually took weeks and required large, pristine samples.
So for them to pull a profile from a sanded down finger and confirm an identity in just 3 days.
It was an extraordinary forensic achievement.
It really was. And the victim is identified as 35-year-old Seiichi Kawamura.
A Class A architect.
Right. He lived in the neighborhood right near Inokashira Park. And this is where the story shifts from, like, a mechanical horror to just a deeply human tragedy.
Yeah. He had a wife who was pregnant with their second child and a 3-year-old son.
And when the police start digging into his life, looking for enemies or gambling debts, illicit affairs, whatever.
They find absolutely nothing. A completely blank slate.
Right. He was universally described by friends and coworkers as cheerful, highly responsible, debt-free.
He had 0 bad influences. Yeah. And he was completely neutral religiously, which is a really important detail here.
Oh, right, because of the rumors at the time.
Exactly. There were early rumors that he was killed for trying to leave a cult. The Aum Shinrikyo cult was super active in Japan then, so the public naturally leaned toward a ritualistic explanation.
But investigators thoroughly debunked that. He had no cult affiliations.
None at all.
So what does this all mean? When the victim is just a normal, successful family guy, where is the motive?
Well, when you realize the victim had no enemies, the entire police strategy has to pivot.
Because you can't find a why.
Exactly. If you can't find a why, you have to figure out how. In most dismemberment cases, it's a crime of passion. A spouse or partner panics and tries to hide the body.
It's messy, it's emotional.
Right. But the extreme overkill here, the mechanical precision, it points to a professional hit.
But applied to someone who had literally no reason to be targeted by professionals.
Which brings us to the logistics of the timeline. And this is where the case goes from difficult to practically impossible.
Okay, let's trace his final hours. It's the night of Thursday, April 21st. He's out drinking with some former colleagues near Shinjuku and Takadanobaba stations, celebrating a promotion.
Just a very standard Tokyo evening for an
Okay.
office worker.
Yeah. He says goodbye to his friends at the train station at 11:00 p.m. That is the last confirmed sighting of him alive.
And his wife notes that even when he stayed out late drinking, he always came home.
Always.
So when he didn't return that night, she immediately knew something was terribly wrong.
Yeah.
She reported him missing the very next morning, the 22nd.
But the body parts are found in the park between 10:00 and 11:00 a.m. on Saturday the 23rd.
So think about the math here.
Yeah, from 11:00 p.m. on the 21st to discovery on the 23rd, that's only about 30 hours.
And within that 30-hour window, you have to deduct the time it took to actually abduct him, transport him to a secure facility, and transport the remains back to the park.
Wow, so they likely had less than 20 hours of actual processing time.
Exactly. In that condensed window, they murdered him, drained his blood entirely, cut him into 27 equal pieces using heavy machinery.
Washed the parts, sanded down his fingerprints.
Double-bagged them using complex knots, and drove them to a public park to distribute across 7 bins.
Without anyone seeing them.
Right. It proves without a doubt that this was a coordinated operation by a skilled team with a pre-prepared facility.
You just can't execute those steps in that time frame without a plan.
No way.
And because the crime was flawlessly executed on a guy with no enemies, the theories trying to explain it are just wild.
Yeah. And we should remind you listening, we're sharing these impartially based on the historical sources. We're not endorsing them, just showing how the public tried to rationalize the impossible.
Exactly. So theory number 1 involves a video game prophecy.
This one gained massive traction in the media because it tapped into the cultural anxieties of 1994.
Right. Over a year prior to the murder, in 1992, this wildly popular video game called Shin Megami Tensei came out.
Yeah, I remember hearing about this.
The very beginning of that game features a dream sequence where a gruesome dismemberment murder takes place.
And where does it take place?
Exactly, in Inokashira Park. So the theory was that a group of fanatic copycats used the game as a blueprint for a real-world sacrifice.
It's a super spooky narrative, for sure. But logically, it kind of falls apart.
How so?
A group of radicalized gamers doesn't typically have access to an industrial slaughterhouse setup.
Right, or the discipline to execute all those forensic countermeasures.
Exactly. Just doesn't align with the physical evidence at all.
Makes sense. Okay, theory number 2, and again, strictly an unverified rumor from the sources, but it's the theory of mistaken identity and spies.
Oh, this theory hinges on just catastrophic bad luck.
Yeah. According to the sources, there was a street stall boss operating in the Kichijoji area, which is very close to the park.
Okay.
And he looked exactly like Kawamura. Same build, same face, same age.
And this boss was reportedly in a violent turf war with foreign spies.
Right. So the theory is that a professional hit squad grabbed the wrong man in the dark.
They took Kawamura, subjected him to this horrific industrial disposal, and only realized too late that they had an innocent architect.
It perfectly explains the professional nature of the hit and the total lack of motive.
But as we said, it remains totally unverified.
Which leads us to theory number 3, and I find this one the most unsettling.
The fake detective theory.
Yes, because it involves active intimidation during the police investigation.
Yeah, this is wild. So a Japanese publisher releases a magazine featuring an article about that specific fisherman's knot.
The Ryoshi Masubi.
Right. Because the knot was one of the very few clues released to the public, the media was obsessing over it.
Naturally.
So shortly after it's published, the editor is contacted by a detective claiming to be from Section 2 of the police.
And he physically comes to the publisher's office, right?
Yes, hands over a business card, and intensely interrogates the editor and the young writer.
Demanding to know why they wrote about that specific knot.
Exactly, heavily implying they had inside knowledge.
But the editor gets suspicious.
Right, he looks into the card, contacts headquarters, and finds 2 massive red flags.
First, Section 2 of the police strictly handles economic and white-collar crimes, not homicides.
And second, The phone number was fake. The detective did not exist.
The guy was a complete fraud.
Yeah. It means the perpetrators, or someone connected to them, were actively monitoring the media.
They saw the article, created a fake identity, and boldly walked right into a publisher's office in broad daylight.
Just to find out how much the media actually knew, the audacity is staggering.
They were running active counterintelligence on their own murder investigation.
Exactly.
So you listening, which of these theories makes the most sense to you? How does a team pull off an industrial-scale crime in 30 hours, leave no trace, and then impersonate cops?
Well, if we connect this to the broader historical context, it becomes clearer why the police ultimately failed to solve it.
Because of the fading of the investigation.
Right. It wasn't just the killer's sophistication. It was a perfect storm of external tragedies.
Just 3 days after Kawamura's remains were found, the massive China Airlines Flight 140 crash happened at Nagoya Airport.
264 people died. The nation's media attention shifted instantly.
The news cycle for the park dismemberment just evaporated overnight.
And then 11 months later, the 1995 Tokyo subway sarin gas attack happens.
One of the worst domestic terror attacks in Japanese history.
The police had to pull almost all their resources across Tokyo, including detectives on the Kawamura case, to deal with the sarin attack.
So the Inokashira case was handed off to a smaller local precinct.
One that simply didn't have the manpower or budget to untangle a highly organized conspiracy.
The timing was just unbelievably fortunate for the killers.
It really was. But before we finish, there is one final chilling detail that the sources point out.
Okay, what is it?
It shows how thoroughly the killers utilized the city's systems.
Right.
We talked about the 27 packages weighing 20 kilograms.
Right.
But remember, the missing 70% of Kawamura's body.
The head, torso, internal organs.
The parts that would undeniably show the exact cause of death. They were never found.
So where did they go?
Well, the local municipal garbage collection, specifically for burnable trash in Musashino City, took place on Friday mornings.
Oh, no.
Kawamura went missing late Thursday night. He was likely murdered in the early hours of Friday.
Wow.
Crime analysts believe it is highly probable the killers put the most crucial 70% of his body into standard garbage bags and left them on the curb for the regular Friday morning burnable pickup.
Meaning they didn't even have to hide it.
No. The city's own garbage trucks collected the evidence, drove it to the municipal incinerators, and legally, permanently destroyed it in massive, high-temperature furnaces.
And this happened before anyone even knew he was dead.
Hours before his wife filed a report. A full day before the cleaner found the remaining parts. The city unknowingly finalized the perfect crime for them.
This case was past the statute of limitations in 2009. This means that the killer, capable of precisely cutting 20 by 30 centimeter pieces, might right now be sitting in a Tokyo restaurant cutting his steak. End of radio bye.